Oh man. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. This is a little emotional for me. There was something watchable on Raw. This is amazing. People, we might have to celebrate in the streets for this one. So just out of the blue on Monday Night Raw, we might have gotten a top 5 CM Punk promo he might have ever cut. This was actually insane, and this came absolutely out of nowhere. I know we're a few weeks away from Mania, but where this story was like a couple weeks before to what he just did, it just seemed very unlikely for something like this to happen, and it just fell out of nowhere. Listen, I know CM Punk has said some things that have maybe ruffled some feathers over the years. Whether you think he means what he says or he doesn't, or he's just trying to make a shocking moments and sell tickets at WrestleMania, I don't know his motive. Nobody does know his motive, and I'm tired of people trying to guess what his motive is. Listen, if it was entertaining to me in the moment, I'm gonna count that as a win. I'm not gonna, this is professional wrestling. I'm not gonna look at it much deeper than that. So yeah, whether you agree with the man or what he stands for, I really couldn't care less. This segment, in my opinion, was some much needed fresh content because, you know, this year so far for WWE, my goodness, it is not looking good so far. In the rest of Raw, I might get to some of that at the end of the video. I really couldn't care less, except for a little tiny bit of moments. Other than that, I don't. This is the main thing I'm going to talk about. The first thing I want to point out in this promo is, at first, people were just not having CM Punk at all. They were not having the promo to start off. People were chanting the what chants. One thing I hated is the what chants. Oh my goodness. The crowd was doing what chants. They were actually cheering for Roman Reigns, who wasn't even in the building. So, you know, that started off not so well for CM Punk, but at the end of it, it was a much different story. To start out his promo, he said, Roman Reigns, you and your cousins. He didn't even say he said your cousins. Do you know how disrespectful that is? He said a couple weeks ago, him and his cousins put Punk through the table, and then Punk got his get back and then put Roman through the table. That stuff I couldn't care less about. It's just, you know, we have many complaints, but this video is not one of those. I swear I'm not going to complain the whole time. You better believe me. The next thing Punk goes on to say is, Roman Reigns, you hate me because I won't trade my authenticity for approval, but you will, and that's what you have done your entire career. I don't know about you, but if Punk said that to my face, I would stand up and tell him, you know what, I might cry, because that is a rude thing to say. My goodness. And then he caps that off by saying, hold on, I have the quote here. Being hated by losers is the price I pay for not being one of them. Wow, that is how do you come back from that one? I might get a CM Punk picture and put that quote on it and put it on my wall. That's good. There was just so many things he said that I'd hate myself if I forgot, so I wrote a couple of these things down. He went crazy. There wasn't a minute gone by where you kind of just tuned out. You were locked in the entire time. Okay, so Punk goes on to say, you know, we both have tools to make it at the top. Dude, and then he goes on to drop this line. He says, my tools are self-made. Yours are store-bought, and they're made of plastic. That's a crazy bar to drop. Bro said his whole career is plastic. That's crazy. Dude, this whole promo is just so, it's a good promo, but the timing of it is so weird because WWE, their content, like literally almost all of it, has just been unwatchable garbage. I wouldn't say I would say unwatchable, because even someone who's been watching for a decade plus, I'm not really watching. And he just kind of comes out of nowhere with this. Whether you believe it's a last ditch effort to move tickets, or, you know, he just came out there and said what he feels, we might not ever know, or maybe in a couple years when he goes on a random podcast we might know, but right now it's just all for the entertainment. I have seen a few people say this one tops the first one, and to that I say, you are wrong, you stupid idiot. I don't know if that first one can ever be topped. They literally live, they cut his mic, bro. Like, I don't think that can be topped. They said, nah, hit the showers, bro. You're done. That sounds weird. Okay, so the next shot Punk took is him mentioning how Roman Reigns went on Jimmy Fallon, and he basically is being sent to all these media outlets by TKO because he is safe. and boring. Like, imagine getting all boring, bro. Getting associated with TKO is never a good thing. I'm actually really interested in how Roman Reigns will respond to this. This promo right here, just one promo, has got me fully invested in this story again. Call me a glazer, do what you want. I might slobber on this all day. He goes on to say how, okay, so I have filmed a lot of movies and shows before, and yet every single week I have showed up. But you, on the other hand, you go film these movies and you use it as an excuse to never show up. And I'm not gonna lie right there, that's a fair point. Even when CM Punk was, going out doing movies and stuff, kind of getting more in the spotlight, in the media spotlight, he was still there every single week. Sometimes cutting promos and main eventing Raws as well. That's a crazy workload right there. He stays in the lane of, Roman going Hollywood, and then he says, Roman, you're puffing your chest up and walking around in the back like you're The Rock. We got a Rock mention, and I heard a lot of boos. And then he goes on to say, just wait for this one. He says, at least The Rock is a Hollywood superstar. Oh, sorry, I mean was. And the place was like, oh my goodness, what are we witnessing? This is crazy. When there's promos, when the superstar is taking shots at someone who is either just not there, not in the company anymore or what, I wonder what their facial reaction is when they open up their phone and see that for the first time. They wake up in the morning, birds chirping, the coffee is getting warm, they open their phones, they go on Twitter, and the first thing they see is them getting crapped on. What a way to start your morning, bro. And then the next thing he mentioned, like, this is what I'm about to get into this right here. This is one of my gripes, and with this storyline, at least they're fixing it. Punk says, unlike Roman, he never had a dad that got him a job in the business because he sucked at football. Oh my goodness, you're gonna bring up his football career? What are we doing? And like, this is the stuff I had complaints about, where it's like, you're only acting like there's no history with anything. It's just the present and the future. The past doesn't matter. But with something like this, he literally went back to Roman's football career, bro. Like, that's unexpected right there. Like, that you gotta really know who Roman Reigns is to even understand this reference. And I feel like a lot of the time the company is too scared to do stuff like this because they think the audience won't even understand the reference because they think they're that casual. But most of us who watch, we're actually invested in the actual superstar and their stories of how they got there. So this stuff like this really needs to, it shouldn't be oversaturated and be brought up every week, but more just a tiny bit more of stuff like this is, it's needed. This is a promo in an era where promos just aren't, they're not hitting the same like they used to be. This is definitely a down period, maybe a down decade in terms of promos, because, a lot of people just play it safe. They don't want to offend anyone, hurt someone's feelings. But Punk, bro, he went out there tonight and he didn't care. And we bring up even more history because Punk says he deserves everything he has gotten because he has busted his butt. But Roman, you're a Nepo baby who ate dog food for a weird old man. Bro brought up 2019 Roman Reigns. Those were some dark days, man. This whole thing with Vince McMahon, I would have assumed he would have got the Benoit treatment and just, they wouldn't really mention him ever again, even though, he's literally like the reason why they've lasted so long. So it'd be kind of hard to, avoid him in like documentaries and stuff. But I thought he'd get kind of the Benoit situation, not to the extent, but just mouth closed on live television. Just a couple years later, we got CM Punk coming out and saying this, and then we got a bit of mind games. He says, Roman, you hate me because you can't control me, but you are controlled all the time. Because Roman literally had a wise man talking in his ear for like half a decade. So, you know, that was some good story progression, I think, and a good shot to, you know, add some layer to the story that before this wasn't really hitting like most people thought it would. But this actually really got me excited for this feud, and I really hope what Roman Reigns says won't disappoint, and they won't go back into their cocoon and hiding and just odd, stupid, just bland promos that, you know, that's been going on so far. Bro, and then he brought up more Roman Reigns history. He said, you can brag about how many times you've main evented WrestleMania, but if I was afforded as many opportunities as you and sucked at the first 8 of them, I would be fired. What? No. Dude, how does Roman Reigns come back from the... He might need to be on set for his movie for a while. This is bad, bro. You know what Roman should do? This is the perfect opportunity for Roman to come back and then mention the absolute disaster of Punk's AEW run. Imagine how much buzz would be surrounding this feud if Roman just singly mentioned that. That would take this to an entire new level, and this is literally the perfect opportunity to do that. I don't know if they'll pull the plug on it, but you know what, they should. And then this is the most viral part that we got of this pipe bomb. He mentions Pat McAfee and says, okay, you're coming in this business saying what everybody else should do, saying that you draw tickets, you're writing a check you can't cash. And then Punk says, the same agent who got you back here, call him up and say to lower the ticket prices. Dude, the chant that erupted after he said that was a louder chant than anything that happened at Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. By far, too, my goodness. And then on that conversation, the ticket prices, he also says, you should also lower the ticket prices so as many families as possible can witness me stomping on Roman Reigns' neck at WrestleMania and me walking out the champion. He literally grabs the camera and it's just, it looks like he's talking into your soul. It looks kind of scary. I wanted to cry. But yeah, that was basically the promo, and dude, I really enjoyed this promo. I don't care what you think the motive was, what he actually thinks. I was thoroughly entertained while watching. The dynamic that interests me is the TKO head of creative CM Punk aspect, because who controlled what was said and who approved of what was said? Because I think there is no way TKO would even slightly approve of what CM Punk just said. Same thing with Pat McAfee, because he mentioned lower SmackDown ratings as well the week previous. There's just weird things this week, that the past couple of weeks there's just so many weird things that are happening that just I don't understand who's approving what, or if he actually just went out there and said everything without approval. I don't know. It does interest me, that part of it, but you know, I don't know if we'll ever know. Imagine he got in trouble for saying what he said and got thrown out of the main event, got replaced with Nicki Minaj. I'd watch that. Other things that happen that are some pretty good news, like Rey Mysterio is back and enters the ladder match for the IC title. So we might see some crazy things from a 50-year-old Rey Mysterio, bro, jumping off ladders and stuff. I show speed as in a storyline right now, which, you know, I didn't mention in any of my last videos. I was going to, but then I forgot. But this is so odd. I don't know what he's capable of. I don't know what he's gonna do, but I also found that interesting. So yeah. And the Brock versus Oba brawl, my God, Brock threw a chair at Oba, holy crap. But yeah, that was also good as well. That story progression there, it's like I saw someone say it's Godzilla versus Kong, but WWE style. That is the most accurate thing I have ever heard in my life. But yeah, that was the CM Punk pipe bomb. It absolutely came out of nowhere, and this is the step in the right direction for WWE to get back on track with storyline wise, and because they're a mess right now. I don't know if this will lead to anything with any future stories. One can only hope. But yeah, thank you guys for watching me ramble on and talk about my opinion of this, even though, you know, it don't really matter that much. But yeah, just again, thank you all for watching, and God bless, stay safe.